What's up, everyone? Jason Gilbo here, taking a look at some GPP bats for tonight's slate. Overall, we got 7 games here, a couple of aces going, or above average pitchers, I like to say. So definitely some guys to target as far as cheap bats go to pair with them, but also, we do have some pay-up options. Bryce Harper is absolutely mashing the ball. Got some Baltimore bats in a good spot if weather can hold. So breaking things down here, Phillies and Mets here first. Noah Syndergaard versus Aaron Nola. As far as upside goes in this one, kind of tough to find. I mean, on the Mets side, you can certainly look at some guys. Aaron Nola, definitely not a bad guy. We're looking at Nola against lefties since last year. 304 WOBA allowed, 55% ground ball rate, average contact rates. I mean, I'm not jumping all over these Mets bats. I mean, on a 7-game slate, I think you can take some shots with guys like Asdrubal Cabrera, Jay Bruce still, who's coming off a big game. Michael Conforto, if he gets into the lineup, I'm okay there. But overall, it's just kind of a one-off territory. Not my favorite spot because I do think Nola's a solid arm. So if this was a bigger slate, I'd probably be off the Mets altogether. But given the fact that it is 7 games and you might want to take some shots at places you might not normally, I'm okay with doing that as far as the one-offs go. On the Philly side, I'm not really looking to target against Syndergaard. I mean, there is some stolen base upside with Cesar Hernandez if he gets on. He's cheap, but that's about it for me. Baltimore, Cincinnati, this is a spot with some good one-off power, also some stacking options with these two teams. Look at Baltimore, Feldman, league average right-hander at best. Yes, he's had a couple of decent starts, but not a guy that I'm shying away from. Adam Jones is off to a decent start to the season. Chris Davis, we know, has big power from the left side. Mark Trumbo hit righties really well, over 250 ISO against righties last year. Jonathan Scope is even a guy you can look to target there at second base. I don't mind him. And in that ballpark, I mean, it really does favor right-handers, favors lefties. Feldman, definitely a guy not to shy away from, as I said. And you look at Baltimore, one of the higher run totals on the night. So definitely okay with firing away, as long as the weather holds, of course. As far as the Reds go, I mean, Adam Duvall has big power, over 200 ISO against lefties. Eugenio Suarez, really strong numbers against lefties in his career. I certainly don't mind looking his way on tonight's slate. Depends. I mean, FanDuel, a little bit higher owned than you'd like. I mean, he's up in price, he's going to be a little bit lower owned just because of his high price tag. But DraftKings, he should be low at 3,700. 353 WOBA in his career against lefties, 200 ISO. As I said, a stacking pod. Miley, I mean, over 150 home runs per 9, also at 360 WOBA allowed since last year to righties. So Reds bats, Reds righties are very much in play here. I definitely like getting some exposure. Washington and Atlanta, Steven Strasburg versus R.A. Dickey. As far as Nationals bets go, 1 through 5 here in play against R.A. Dickey, who they haven't seen in a little bit, but none of them have terrific numbers, which I do like to look at for knuckleballers. But you do look at Dickey, still very home run prone, 341 WOBA allowed, 1.69 homers per 9 since last year. Righties, 340 WOBA, 1.35 home runs per 9. So with how dialed in these Nationals bats are against right-handed pitching right now, I don't mind them. SunTrust is also not bad for power right now, and we've seen that here early. As far as Atlanta goes, Steven Strasburg obviously one of the talented right-handers on the slate. Freddie Freeman's probably the only one that I'll use, just given the fact that he has really good numbers against Strasburg in his career. Also, Freeman's also another guy who's locked in, but nothing more than a GPP play. That's about it. Royals Rangers, Andrew Kashner versus Danny Duffy. Royals have some bats here at decent prices. I mean, Mike Moustakas is a guy I like at third base. Eric Hosmer is actually a guy I can target now for upside at first base, given the ballpark and the matchup. Look at Kashner. I mean, 40% hard contact rate to lefties since last year, 1.46 home runs per 9. Looked not that great in his first start here. I don't think Texas is going to help this guy who's looking for a turnaround in his career. Cashner has not been good for quite some time. So I do think the Royals are in play. Righties as well. You look at Cashner, 351 will be allowed. I don't mind Kane. Should go a little bit underowned. Salvador Perez, definitely chalky. But definitely worth a look, given catcher's pretty weak. If you want to go down there, Brandon Moss isn't a bad GPP option as well in that ballpark. I certainly don't mind targeting some lefties. As far as Texas goes, I mean, Danny Duffy, I feel like could have a decent start still, but I also feel like there's some home run potential. I mean, still 1.47 home runs per 9 to righty since last year, 38% hard contact rate. So with that being said, I mean, guys like Carlos Gomez, Elvis Andrus, Mike Napoli all have some intriguing options. Jonathan Lucroy is a nice spin-off of this one. I think him and Salvador Perez will have the highest ownership on the slate, but I definitely don't mind targeting these guys, these right-handers here, especially in that ballpark. Warmer weather. Does look like wind's blowing in a little bit, but for the most part, I mean, Vegas is loving this game. I think there's definitely some balls to be hit out of this ballpark today. St. Louis and Milwaukee, Zach Davies versus Carlos Martinez. This is a great GPP game. You look at the Cardinals side of things, really struggling out of the gates here. Obviously, the offense, I think, is a little bit overrated. But front four is very intriguing against Zach Davies, very average right-hander. You look at Fowler, I mean, got off the schneid yesterday with 2 home runs. Matt Carpenter, if he's in the lineup, in a really good spot. Really like his FanDuel price, at 3,100, DK 4 rates up there. Back at first base at both sites, not particularly intriguing, but on a 7-game slate, I don't mind it. Aledmus Diaz, this guy ripped righties last year, 380 WOBA, over 200 ISO. Hopefully the day off kind of helped him out a little bit, so certainly okay with these guys there. Piscotty as well. On the Brewers side of things, I mean, you look at Martinez, this is a guy, enormous strikeout upside tonight. But Brewers also have some potential with how they've been hitting. I mean, especially Travis Shaw, Eric Thames. Curious to see the Thames ownership once again. Price tag really isn't all that bad. FanDuel, they finally bumped him up. He's 3,800, so you don't get the discount there anymore. But DraftKings, you still do. Villar striking out a ton, but there is some upside. Travis Shaw striking out quite a bit, but not as high as the other guys. I don't mind him for upside as well. Just because Martinez, there is a little bit of struggle with lefties. 318 well, but 33% hard contact going back to last year. It's not bad, but not good either. So the Brewers are in play. A good GPP team and target tonight. Arizona, San Diego, Patrick Corbin versus Clayton Richard. As far as, I mean, 2 lefties that I think can actually have decent outings here. Arizona on the road, tough. Richard just rolls a ton of ground balls, which you don't like to see for guys in Petco. Not a ton of hard contact either. So, I mean, I'm kind of just looking at Arizona and just going, maybe take a look at guys like Yasmani Tomas, AJ Pollock, Paul Goldschmidt, but that's probably about it. I mean, I'm not overly excited just because of the ballpark and the fact that Richard is a ground ball guy. So those 3 names, if you are building multiple lines, but it's not going to be the first offense or even the first 4 offense I target. As far as San Diego goes, Will Myers is an interesting GPP option tonight. I don't think a lot of people will go his way. And you look at Will Myers, I mean, kind of intriguing because you look at Petco Park, really tough on right-handed power. He had a 263 ISO at home last year compared to 139 on the road. So Petco Park, definitely not an issue for Will Myers. We saw the power really there quite a bit. So I think he's an interesting GPP play against Corbin, who I don't think is a bad option tonight, but it's a guy who still isn't missing a ton of bats, and Myers does have good, solid lefty numbers. Seattle and Oakland, only really one side of this that I'm looking at. Oakland, not a GPP team that I'm targeting tonight. Chris Davis might be the only viable option if you're looking for a one-off just with his power. I'm a big fan of Paxton. Look at the Mariners here, 1 through 5, even 1 through 6 with the way Tyler Matter's hitting the ball. You look here, Cesar Valdez, a 32-year-old journeyman. He's been playing in Mexico for like the last couple of years. Guys like Jared Dyson, Mitch Haniger's on an absolute tear to start the season. Robinson Cano. You can always get Nelson Cruz when he's facing righties at lower ownership. Kyle Seager is struggling a little bit. I don't mind him. Vegas has, Seattle 4.5 run total, one of the higher on the slate. Ballpark, not the greatest, but we've seen some decent run totals here in Oakland before. I'm okay with targeting these Seattle bats, 1-5, 1-6. I hope that the West Coast there keeps their ownership down a little bit because they are in a really good spot. It might be starting to come around here over the last few games. So definitely a top 10 offense once everyone gets clicking, especially with Haniger in there. That definitely top 5 potential. So I'm certainly looking their way. That's going to wrap things up. You can check out dailyfantasycafe.com for our great tools and content.